Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about the new movie, The Substance. If you end up enjoying this video, please consider liking and subscribing. That way when I turn 50, I can look half as good as Demi Moore at 61. The synopsis is as follows. Elizabeth Sparkle, renowned for her aerobics show, faces a devastating blow on her 50th birthday as her boss fires her. Amid her distress, a laboratory offers her a substance which promises to transform her into an enhanced version of herself. So without further ado, let's get into the 6 things that make a movie great. 1. The plot. So Elizabeth finds herself getting fired from this agency as she has aged out and they no longer want her, they want younger talent. On her way home, she gets in a car accident, ends up in the hospital, and a doctor gives her a flash drive to check out something called the substance. She gives in, decides to inject herself with it, and it creates another version of herself that's much younger, but is still somehow tethered to her original body. But along with taking the substance, there's some rules you have to follow, otherwise there are some pretty devastating consequences. What this movie explores is Elizabeth's struggle to obey those rules while living in the freedom of her new body. The setup for this movie is absolutely fantastic. The storytelling, the attention to detail, it's extremely mysterious, horrifying, original, and very interesting to watch. There is some subliminal messaging going on in this movie as well, and it's done in a very tactful way. However, there are some things in the plot that start happening near the end of the film that made less sense, and though I liked the final moment of the movie, the last 20 minutes of the film absolutely tank it. It decides to throw subliminal messaging out the window and starts putting it right on the nose. A lot of the stuff that starts happening is very B-rated, ridiculous, and way over the top, and I could not have been more disappointed. It wasn't out of darkness bad, but it was pretty close. Regardless of the terrible ending of this movie, the plot is incredibly interesting and original, so I have to give plot a thumbs up. 2 is family friendliness. The substance is very much so rated R. There's a mild to moderate bit of profanity, quite a few scenes of absolutely grotesque and graphic violence and gross things happening on screen, and an absolutely overwhelming amount of sexual and non-sexual nudity. Honestly, I don't know if I have seen a movie with more on-screen nudity than this film, and a lot of it comes from Elizabeth looking at her own body and her younger body, but the camera makes it an absolute focal point throughout the entire film. So because of that, family friendliness gets a thumbs down. 3 is acting and script. The main acting performances in this movie are Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, and Dennis Quaid. And for me, Demi Moore stole the show. Her performance for 3/4 of this movie were very well done, and it wasn't necessarily her acting near the end that was bad, it just was the direction they decided to go with her character near the end that was a bit strange, but all the other acting was great. I like Margaret Qualley as an actress, and she did a good job in this movie as well. But when we get to Dennis Quaid, there are a couple things here to talk about. He is mostly the primary antagonist in this movie, but he is like an over-the-top comic book villain. And it almost felt like there was a slight subtone of all men being bad in this movie, but Quaid portrayed the worst man out of all of them. And then we go to the script. Again, for the most part, I think the script was very well written. Especially for the first half of this movie, there were not a ton of lines of dialogue, and that made every line have weight and value. Again, the setup for this movie was brilliant. It just was the ending and things that happened near the end in the storytelling and script that were not very good. And that's a huge bummer because the rest of the story, acting and script here were pretty good. So for me, acting and script get a thumbs up. 4 is character development. No one in this movie really gets any character development besides Elizabeth, but it's strange because she's developing both as Elizabeth and as Sue. But really, it's just Elizabeth. There is some very good character development here, and I think it is a testament to the acting performance from Demi Moore. Watching her make these character-defining or compromising decisions deepened her character so much, and she did such a good job of showing that both in her facial expressions and the way that she held herself. But there did reach a point where certain things stopped making sense and where the character development just stopped. And I think that's in large part due to the direction this film decided to go in its final portion. So besides that dynamic being a little bit strange, I have to give character development a thumbs up. 5 is visuals and CGI. Holy free holies. The attention to detail in this movie is incredible. From the way it was shot to the score that's going behind it, everything was very well done. I do have to say there is a scene involving shrimp near the beginning of this movie that is absolutely criminal. But other than that, this is probably one of the best shot films that I have seen this year. And a movie that does this well is able to add intensity, add intrigue, and that's exactly what the visuals and audio did. That being said, there were a lot of very graphic and grotesque things in this movie as well, which executed what they wanted to show perfectly. Again, though, there were some things visually that happened near the end of the movie that I thought were unnecessary and took this film into B-rated territory. But other than that, for me, visuals and CGI get a thumbs up. And 6 is rewatchability. The Substance is 2 hours and 20 minutes long. And though that's a pretty long movie, I did not feel it because I was actively involved and engaged and intrigued the entire time. The final moment in this movie I think was very well done, but the final 20 minutes of the movie was absolutely terrible, over the top, ridiculous, and unnecessary. And that makes rating this movie very difficult because I don't want to include the final 20 minutes because the first 2 hours were so well done. Though the story is very interesting, there is just an extreme amount of nudity in this movie, and I'm just not interested in watching that again. Kind of the same feeling as Game of Thrones on all accounts. So because of that, for me, rewatchability gets a thumbs down. Up until the last 20 minutes of this movie, I would have given it a 7 out of 10. But unfortunately, due to the creative decision they decided to make, I have to give The Substance a 5 out of 10. This movie had a very interesting and original story with great acting performances, incredible videography, attention to detail, and score. But there was an abhorrent amount of nudity, and the last 20 minutes of the film was just stupid and unnecessary and tanked the movie as a whole. With all that in mind, because of the nature of this film, I can't recommend it to everyone, but this story is a very interesting one, so if you can look past all of that stuff, then you might want to check out The Substance in theaters. Thank you so much for watching. If you've seen The Substance, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. As always, I appreciate your love and support, and I'll catch you guys and gals in the next one.